Yes, my people. It's another episode of Blocks of Bags, and today we are back outside. We're back outside in our blazers.
Blazer boys, come on.
Blazer boys in the building.
Boys.
Yo, it's your boy Beej.
It's your boy Seb.
And this week we've got an episode which is an interview with a sports mediator, a sports negotiator, a lifestyle curator, an entrepreneur who is connecting the dots amongst countries. If you knew the deals this guy is working on, you'd scream. We've just seen the paperwork. The paperwork is real. I first met this entrepreneur many years ago in a building where there was a lot of people that didn't look like us. And we just, wave, say, what's good?
Yeah.
Our mutual contact has just gone and sold his business for $500 million. And then he's bought another business and merged. And then my brother Seb, he's been building a relationship with him as well.
Come on.
What's your relationship been like?
Yo, man, we're in the same office. One day you're like, I like your crepes. I'm like, yo, I like your style. And we took it from there. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
Come on. And to be fair, there's not a lot of people that look like us on our kind of office and stuff like that. But I just like Soul's vibe. I just liked his energy. I was like, this is the guy that I need to know in this kind of building, man. You're friends with everyone. The energy was good. You're always chatting to everyone. Like, that's what we like to see, innit? So welcome to the show, man. It's a pleasure to have you on, bro.
Likewise, thank you for having me. Yeah, that sneaker game, I was impressed. I saw Seb in the building. I'm like, this guy's got fresh kicks every day.
It was that
What's
VC money.
on?
It was the VC money. It was the VC money, innit? It was the VC money.
Guy's got kicks for every day of the month. I said, I'm not doing something right. I need to link up with this guy and step up my shoe game.
But literally, so Soul, welcome to the show. Right now, a one-liner that you've got up on your strap line everywhere is Lovemore is building a one-stop platform which will revolutionize how families discover, access and experience luxury, which is inspired by years of working with athletes and understanding their ever-changing lifestyle needs. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, you've obviously got this fast-growing sports representation agency. So how did you get to the bag?
Let's talk about it.
Do you know what? That's a great question. I guess let's kind of roll back. I won't waffle on too much, but I think if for me, I connect my story from the start, and I think it all starts really with my head teacher, right? When I was in school, my head teacher joined our school, and she said to me, "Look, if you wanna play in the school football team, you have to come to drama. If you don't come to the drama lessons to be in the school play, you can't play in the team." So I was a bit like, that's a bit harsh. That's unfair, because I didn't get it at the time, but later on in life, now I appreciate it. So anyway, I had to go to, all the boys are like, why would you do that? Anyway, she must have seen something. So I had to go to drama after school, do my drama club. Then I'd be allowed to play in the school games. She'll drive me to some of the games, me and a few of the boys to the games and what have you. And I think the lesson I got from that was about I was capable of more than I knew I was capable, until someone else started to push me, do drama, do football, I'm doing my academics, I'm doing a lot of things. And fast forward to now, I think, again, I went to university, studied at Roehampton, I did a business management degree, majored in marketing. And from doing that, I kind of thought, do you know what? Sport's my first love.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed marketing. I actually finished my final piece at uni was on Apple. And so when I left uni, I looked at the sports industry and thought, working for an agency, they were offering, next to no money, like 19, 20 grand a year. And in my head, I just thought, we live in London. What am I going to do with that? So then, fortunately, I got offered a job in hospitality is where I started.
Okay.
And the uni lecturer always said to me, just go into a people-facing role. You should go into consultancy. Anything that involves people, you'll thrive. So in my first role, it was like a marketing role, working across PR for a hospitality group. And I found my feet pretty quickly, because I thought, you know what? The one currency I still trade off till this day is relationships. I've just always been good at communicating with people from all walks of life. And I think for me, that helped me take massive leaps, because those relationships, like for example, when I met Ollie, me and BJ both met Ollie mutually, it's meeting people like that who've been there and done it, and them giving you the time of day and the confidence to go, actually, I'm going to go and figure it out. Yeah. And funny enough, you can ask Ollie about it. He offered me a job at TOG.
Got it,
right?
okay.
This was like a decade ago.
Try poetry, yeah?
And I went to the interview, and after the interview, I said to Ollie, nah, I can't do this. And he was like, you're the only person I could offer a job, and you turn it down. And I said to him, it's because I just knew I was going to get fired. I'm not like a sit behind the desk type guy. I just
Okay.
knew. So I thought I'd rather preserve my relationship and
That's it.
have Ollie as my mentor than get a job, get sacked from it, and then think this guy's not serious.
That's smart. That's
You
a
know?
smart play
And-
about relationships,
and-
even from early on.
And
Very important.
he laughed at it, but we laugh about it today. But I think, you know, my journey, and to be honest, I say this to both of you, I think I always give people the advice of learn to build relationships versus networking. And I read it in a book, Never Eat Alone, Keith Ferrazzi. Great book for anyone. You know, it's one of my favorite books of all time. And it talks about how, you know, he used to hold dinners in LA, and every week it would be like a table of 10, and he used to swap the people out. And he was trying to bring people from different worlds together, build relationships and opportunities. But the idea is, don't go in and, hey, here's my business card, da da da. It's more about, I'm getting to know you. Like with a perfect example, how we sat here with Seb. When Seb was getting married, he was showing me, oh, bro, look at the outfits. You know, my missus this. We talk about family and life as well as work and VC world and
100%.
whatever. But we've got to know each other on a personal level. When I know a little bit about Seb's heritage, about his family, his wife, da da da, and vice versa. And I think that bond and the relationship side of it allows you to progress more, because then people are invested in you versus the transaction. Because we're all chasing, I meet BJ, oh no, BJ's connected to this person. I'm now chasing our relationship based off, I need to get something, versus let me get to know BJ, let me get to understand him. And then eventually, as our relationship develops,
Things flow, things flourish.
we're both going to find gaps and opportunities that
yeah.
align. And naturally, because we have a relationship, I'm going to think of you and you're going to think of me. And as we build, there's also an element of trust and wanting to see each other win versus, what does he want from me, or what does she want from me? Because when everyone's in the networking room, you can't help but, you know, instinctively think everyone's talking to you, but what does everyone want?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So talking about people and, you know, understanding, it's almost like discerning who you're talking to. You're obviously an expert in people relationships, people building. You represent some high-flying talent across multiple sports. You're involved in conversations and in rooms that people dream to be in. How do you go about managing and cultivating relationships now? And is it different to when you started?
Yeah, do you know what? That's a great question. I think it is slightly different, because now I feel like I'm more at an elevated level. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes look at you and they're like, oh, you're killing, you're this. But I kind of still see myself the same. Not much has changed. I've progressed, but I still feel like the same person.
Still
just
you.
you know, just with more, I guess, with more experience. But I would say now the way I build relationships is a bit different, because I guess maybe it's because of my age as well. Like, you know, now a lot of the people I connect with and I work with are brands. You know, they have kids. I have a goddaughter. It's family. It's you know, it's very centered. A lot of the to give you an example, a very, very well known gaming brand. I mean, one of the biggest. They used to be a sponsor of Arsenal. I'm sure everyone will figure it out. They used to be on the Arsenal shirt. I spoke to him. You know, we're talking about athlete partnerships and our roster and blah blah blah. And he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm from St. Albans." I was like, "Oh, no way! I went to school in Hertfordshire." And I said, "Oh, we used to beat this school called St. Clement Danes. They were like the school in Hertfordshire football." And I was like, "Yeah, we used to smash them." And he was like, "Oh, my kids go to St. Clement Danes." I was like, "Oh, no way!" So all of a sudden, there's like that bond and affinity, because I'm from there. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, do your kids do Gosling?" Which is in Hertfordshire. Gosling is where the athletics. Seasonal, it's like every year you go to Gosling and all the schools link up
And they play
you're
each
trying
other.
to win
It's like a
the
little
district
okay, got it.
tournament, and I used to do like 200, 400. So we're talking
Did
about
you used to rip it off at the Gosling thing? Yeah,
I
come
used
on.
to- I used to smoke people back then. Now
Gosling champ.
now the legs don't move the same. I'm a little bit too old for that now. But yeah, so it's that. It's just, for me, I've always found one thing I always say is I try and always connect with people and find out what they care about. You know, you bond. I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot, especially in my 20s. So you bond over travel, you bond over family, you bond over lifestyle choices, interests. Some people are into tech, into this, and like you just find your common ground. So the conversation, I never go into it, even if it's a business related. I never go in. I'm like, right, I know Seb's got this. Listen, I'm trying to. No, it's about, let me get to know you.
Yeah.
Let's build a relationship, and from that, for an example, when you're working with athletes, people think it's, I represent athlete X, there's this brand, I'm just going to go knock on their door, put it together, and the deal's going to happen. Well, no, your first port of call actually is to get to know the person and find out the brand's strategy. What are they trying to achieve? Our mission right now is to achieve X. Okay, that's good. Our athlete sits into that bucket, and here's why. Because now it's about the creative and the story, which brings the partnership to life. And the numbers are essentially a byproduct of the creative and what they're actually trying to achieve and the value that, you know, both parties bring to each other. So again, it's that, you know, I've started to understand it's about more than just let's meet
the transaction.
Yeah.
I love that.
What's it like saying no? Because, you know, one thing that comes with the world of being connected and building, and I see it every day in my work. Whether it be doing work in a charity, supporting young people coming into journalism, whether it be doing deals for people in the creative sector. A lot of people, you know, will feel connected to you when you're a people person, but there's only so much capacity to do so many things at a great level. So you have to turn around and say no at times, and no could be the hardest thing to do when you're a deal maker, right? How do you deal with saying no? How do you deal with the side of kind of like upholding the values that you want? Because I've definitely seen relationships where we've said no to a term and never worked at a brand again, or that people again. And then we've also said no to things. And actually, when you look back in hindsight over 5 years, you made way more money than you could have even imagined, because actually you've only worked on selective projects with them that made sense to both parties. But I suppose for the entrepreneur starting out, where cash flow is a thing, you're trying to survive, it's hard to say no, right? But yeah, how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure, you know, a £500,000 or £1 million deal comes in, that's probably still tasty and interesting to you guys. But there is probably a process to say no to things, right?
Yeah. And I think, do you know what, that's a great question, because you're right. You know, especially when you're starting out early on, you're right, that cash flow is so important that you almost feel like anything that comes, let's just take it so we can stay afloat. But then comes the next part of, is it a short-term play or a long-term play? And if it's a long-term play, then you have to find ways to alleviate that cash flow pressure, essentially, to allow you to have a runway. And when you're making that decision of what to say, how I normally look at it is I always say, I look at 12, 18, 3, 5, 10. So 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? And when we're assessing an opportunity comes in, we say, okay, where does this fit in to the player's current profile? And how does it affect future opportunities? Now, an area that's probably like a bit more controversial is, let's say, like fast fashion, right? Yeah. You might look at it, a fast fashion brand might come today and they'll throw you crazy money.
Seen it. Kyle Walker, boohoo. I seen the campaign.
And again, we're not. And just to say, we're not here to bash fast fashion brands.
Of course not.
You know, we want them.
It's just about values and aligning,
but
right?
it's values. So I look at those opportunities.
But I blocks the bags. We're gonna call it bullshit.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So I look at it and I say, okay, that opportunity doesn't line exactly to your point of values and where we want to be. So as great as the opportunities and as great as the money is, we're going to leave that there. And I would say to the athletes, trust me, one of the things is we get paid when those opportunities come in. So for us to basically leave money at the table shows you that we have your best interests of heart. This isn't just a smash and grab, let's make as much money as possible, rinse and repeat, let's go and get the next athlete. It's like, no, let's build together. We're a part of your team. We're your strategic partner, helping you to take bigger commercial swings, right? And that's through being, you know, understanding what you care about, then aligning that with the right partners to build value for them and for you. Because it's a long-term play. And you look at the best partnerships, you know, I guess it's easier to use kind of like some of the biggest athletes in the world. You look at like a Roger Federer does the partnership with On Running.
That's a great.
It's a natural fit.
Even the Uniqlo deal he did.
Yeah, but the On one, I heard he's got equity in that, and he actually
Yeah.
owns part of it. And
He
it's
got
like
3% of the company, and 24 months later, they IPO'd. He made 300 million because the company was valued at 10 billion.
300.
But again, it's about timing, alignment, and that equity partnership space. We spoke about this over coffee at the office. It's understanding, I still think in Europe, especially this side of the pond, we still haven't quite really understood
Yeah.
the value of the intellectual property of athletes.
100%.
In America, you've seen
The bronze.
the
Let's-
best
let's- yeah.
example is $1 billion athlete in America isn't a surprise. It's not an anomaly. It's quite a normal thing,
Yeah.
right? Because quite a few athletes have done
broken
it.
through that
Whereas
barrier,
$1 billion
100%.
athlete on this side of the pond is still a
big
very.
deal.
It's a new. It's almost not like it's a new concept.
Have we
That's
seen?
probably the wrong way
Have
of
we seen it
delivering.
on this side of the pond?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
But it's still very much like a big deal. Whereas over there, like, you know, LeBron with the Spring Hill Company and this deal, and they know how to put things together beyond their sport. And I think athletes are now, in my mind, athletes are like the new politicians, right?
Come on.
The kids care about what AJ
Said
or
Marcus Rashford, like that. Yeah, Marcus Rashford. Yeah, come on.
what AJ, what Rashford, and all those athletes have to say more than what the politicians have to say. And when you understand that, you know, there was the whole era in the NBA in America where they said, "Oh, shut up and dribble," and then you know, LeBron
They were-
came out
yeah.
and said, you know, we're more. They started uninterrupted, more than an athlete, and I think Rashford here was the catalyst to say, you don't just have to be a footballer. And this guy comes from Manchester.
Yeah.
He went through the same system. His mum was struggling to pay for lunch at school. Someone at that position coming out and saying that and normalizing it, the importance of that, I don't think we'll ever be able to quantify that probably until the end of our lives. But what he actually did, you don't understand. So many parents must have seen that and the relief they felt to think, wow, we're not alone. This is a guy who's in the Premier League, plays for Man United, earns money that most people will never see. And he was humble enough to go, let me go back and tell my story because I know it's going to open up. All the supermarkets got involved, the government U-turned. And the change he's created, forget the headline, oh, Rashford raises 20 million in the paper. That's not the real value. It's the social and the cultural impact. He's, you know, created
100%.
a new way of thinking. And now we all look at it different and people are a lot more compassionate to the struggles parents have. So, yeah.
Facts. So I want to take it a bit back. So let's talk about Lovemore Sports. You've built a sports athlete agency. Now we know a lot of people are interested in sports. It's a big thing in the kind of UK, but not everyone can be a top athlete or a top player. So I want you to talk about building the infrastructure around kind of athletes and how you're kind of getting the bag in that kind of different way. We're talking media, we're talking IP.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk about how you built your kind of agency and talk to us about your visions for the future and what kind of threads we take from the US when you're talking about what kind of developments you're doing and how you're going to change essentially the game in the next 5 years.
Yeah, so my kind of passion for Lovemore Sports, as I said, probably started when I was in uni. Just, you know, I wanted to make it as a footballer. I was miles off it, to be fair. I grew up in Northwest, and there was a guy called Darren Watson. He's our football coach. And for a lot of us who come from like single parent backgrounds, he was like a father figure in your life, right? He's your football coach. He's pushing you. You're learning discipline, growing up. Essentially, he's helping us mature and become men.
And grow.
And,
Facts.
you know, playing for under Darren, I remember we played an academy game away at Nottingham Forest, right? At their training ground. And yeah, we got beat 6-1. And at the time, I thought I was the quickest kid in the country. I was playing right back. They had this winger. Honestly, this guy kicked the ball past me. I felt like I was running backwards. I don't know what happened. I felt like my legs weren't moving. And at that point, I thought I was the quickest guy on earth.
You didn't get your Aaron Wan-Bissaka on. There was no spider.
It was the most humbling experience. We got beaten 6-1, and in that game I got smashed as well and ended up getting taken off injured. But it just showed you, and I think it was like a Norwegian kid scored like a roundhouse. I just played in that game, and I think for me, I was like, yeah. I remember saying to my mum, I was like, yeah, mum, I'm miles off here. I don't think this football thing's gonna work out. And we just laughed about it, and like, you know, life goes on. But so just looking back at those memories, and then obviously fast forward, I started working in hospitality, and I'm looking after athletes and helping them more so on the hospitality side. They come into our venues, helping them with lifestyle stuff. And as I was going through that, every so often an athlete would be like, oh, so I really need a car. Can you help with that? I'm like, oh, do you know what? I've got a great relationship with the guys at Mercedes. Let me set that up. Done. Oh, so can you help with X? So as that journey went, and then fast forward to maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, a British athlete, you know, he's playing rugby at the time, moving into NFL. You know, I had a great relationship and we had been friends for a very long time. And, you know, I actually helped arrange a leaving party for him. So he's leaving party from rugby into NFL. And at the party, anyway, long story short, I come in the room and I think it was his auntie said to his dad, oh, by the way, I just met his agent. And his dad's like, that's not his agent, that's his friend who helped us set all this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I was saying,
The leaving party.
so the leaving party, his dad says, oh, that's not his agent. So anyway, long story short, the evening ends, happens, great, family there, everyone's there. The next, I think it was like a week or a few days after, the dad said, look, we're very, you know, spiritual family and blah, blah. And we would, you know, the mum and dad were talking and they said, would love for you to help us with our son on this journey.
Dealing with a client saying no. When you pitch for something, have you ever been able to take someone that said no to a pitch deal and convert it to a yes?
Yes. And how you do that, and I always say this,
what are some scenarios?
you don't get paid for deal making, you get paid for creative. So a scenario would be you go to a brand, we work with athlete X, you send them a commercial deck, they look at the athlete and they're like, naturally sold, thank you, but yeah, it's not where our head's at. But then the difference is to turn that from a yes to a no is instead of just sending the commercial deck and saying this is the athlete we have, is you would actually prepare a deck with some creative ideas of this is the talent, this is what they care about, and this is how we think it really resonates with your brand.
Yeah.
And here's a story of how you could piece this together. Of course, they've got their own internal marketing teams and the rest of it.
Okay.
But when you give them a vision of why, the why and the how, then all of a sudden they're interested to explore that. Whereas when it's just like, here's the athlete, they're probably just looking at face value. Now we don't want to spend that money.
Next question. Do you prefer morning routines or evening routines?
I'll say morning routines for sure. Even though I'm not.
What's your morning routine?
My morning routine is wake up, shower, put a podcast on, or an audiobook. At the moment, I've been listening to Green Light.
What time are you waking up?
So normally about 6:45. I'll say.
No alarm?
Yeah, alarm for sure. Yeah. I'm an alarm guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've not always been a morning person, but I'm always like
Discipline.
alarm on, wake up, shower, audiobook or podcast. And at the moment, as I said, Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey is what I've been listening to, which is full of gems, by the way. But yeah, that's always my routine. So I like to get in the zone, and I'm very much in the morning. I don't like to speak much. I just need to be quiet. I need to be still in the morning because that's where I do a lot of thinking, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm mapping out my day. And so yeah, in the morning, some would probably say I'm a little bit grumpy in the morning, but that's just me getting myself in the zone.
Zone. And how do you relax and reset your mind? Are you a 7 days a week guy? Do you work half days on Fridays? Like, where do you go to reset and keep yourself sharp?
Do you know what?
In the week.
I'm not gonna lie, that's one thing I'm probably really bad at, but I would say probably the gym or like going for a walk. I quite enjoy walking in Hampstead Heath, but I would say, yeah, the gym's probably my place where if I need to switch off, I'll just go to the gym, and it's the one place where everything stops. I'm not worried about work. I'm not worried about anything. But yeah, I'm like I don't think I ever stop working, which is a bad habit. You know what I mean? If I'm at home in the evenings, downtime for me is like research. I'm just reading stuff.
Okay, I got one for you. Suits or tracksuits?
Come on. Come on.
Blazer boys.
Yeah, listen, I live in suits. These are my pajamas, guys.
You know there's a viral TikTok saying I'm an island boy. He's saying I'm a blazer boy.
Listen, this is my uniform. No days off. The only time you catch me is in the gym. And to be honest,
so you kind of alluded to not having a father growing up or a present father. What inspired you to get the suits? 'Cause obviously, when you started business, you know, suits was a thing, but also kind of young, not like you're in your 50s. Like in the modern
Mandem, like
not
why
in
the
modern
suit?
workspace,
Yeah,
you don't
like
have to wear a suit. Like when did it switch for you? Because I've gone through phases where I've been a blazer boy, and there's been a time that I've not been a blazer boy.
Do you know, when I was young, I'm gonna put this out there and people laugh. I'm like, when I was young, I was Nike velour tracksuits, Nike tick in my head, stars. I honestly, I did it all. Earring in the left, the old cubic zirconia. I did it all. But I think for me, because I grew up going to church, right? My family are quite, religious, Christian family. And, in church, obviously, as you guys know, you put on your Sunday best, you go to church. And I feel like when I got to about 18, 19, I just kind of made a decision where I said, I need to my identity, I've never really been like a drip guy or like that. So I just thought, you know what?
Drip, drip.
I'm just gonna go suit. Started off in like Zara, H&M. I'm gonna get myself a jacket, few suits, and that was me. I was happy. I was clean shirts. And my granddad always said to me, like, men should always look sharp. Wear a shirt, wear a suit, be presentable. That's, you know, you always want to represent yourself, and everywhere you go, and you want people to remember you. And then as I grew, you know, you start bit of Reese, now more suit supply.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was young, like first time I met Ollie, I was wearing the church's slippers with the crest on them. Like they were like suede black with the gold crest on them. And that's kind of, again, I always think, even to this day, when you dress, always have something on you that's like a
That's where I wear the clocks.
conversation. Yeah,
them.
it's a conversation piece, right? For me, it's like now I've been wearing these trainers for 10 years. The toe cap, Lovemore sneaker. It's a conversation start, whether it's a pocket square.
Pocket
There's always
squares looking hard.
something that someone will say, "Oh, hey, I like that," and it's a good way to engage people.
That's a gem. That's a gem. You can attract people just by taking care of how you present yourself, how you move, how you maneuver, things you do. You can find yourself. You're not telling people to be like you. You're telling them to find themselves, right?
100%.
Love
And
that.
being comfortable, like you said, in our generation right now, most of the kids, everyone's like Amiri,
Dior's,
Drip,
you know what I'm
everyone's
saying,
trying
yeah.
to keep up, right? And obviously I work in sport, I work with athletes. Most of the athletes work with, these guys are incredible. They dress very well. Like these boys do drip very well. But for me, I'm like, they also respect you more when you're confident in who you are. And you're not, imagine me working with an athlete and then thinking, oh, do you know what? I've got to go and cop a Miri and I've got to do this because then the players I won't fit in. No, but they like me because I am who
you,
I am,
yeah,
and
I
I'm
love that.
comfortable
Yeah,
in my
come
own
on.
skin. I'm not trying to adapt to the environment. You go into the environment for who you are, and you know people adjust accordingly, and they respect you more when you're not just following the crowd. And that's how I guess you separate yourself, I would say.
You've just announced the signing of two major athletes across the tennis world and the football world. Tell us a bit more about that. How did it feel signing that? Because that was big news, bro.
Reese Nelson and Heather Watson.
And you missed.
Hey, you missed out the big one. Come on.
The big dog.
West Ham player. Let's go.
Come on.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually haven't really, if I'm honest, I haven't really taken it in. A few people said to me, "Oh, how are you going to celebrate?" And I said, to be honest,
It's mad.
like the reward for hard work for me is more hard work, right? It's like we've done it, we've signed them, but now the real hard work starts. So there's no real pause to be like, we're just going to take a couple of days off. But to be honest with you, I think it's an absolute privilege to obviously be working with such incredible athletes. I mean, Heather, incredible tennis player,
Top British
you know,
athlete
one
in
of
tennis,
the best female British tennis players of all time, really, by the way, in terms of what she's achieved. You know, Wimbledon doubles champ, she's got 4 WTA titles. She's, you know, in terms of Fed Cup, I think she's ranked number 5. I think in terms of appearances or wins, hopefully I don't get that wrong.
Wait.
I mean, you've got Reese Nelson at Arsenal again, South London boy. For me, that one was very special because it's close to home. I'm a London boy. He's like, so I feel like I've walked that path. We have so much to talk about just growing up in London and trying to make it out, right? You come from council estates.
I seen that
being
movie
in-
that you lot did as well in Aylesbury Estate. That was such
Yeah,
a
with
touching
Sky
thing.
Sports.
Yeah.
And
That was
he
a
launched
sick
a
piece.
pitch.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we did together was he launched a pitch at his old primary school. So just being a part of those special moments of seeing someone so young, being so aware and wanting to give back to his community and caring, that's my passion. I'm like, well, from London, the least we can do is make the place we're from better and give people like us from underrepresented backgrounds and communities the opportunity to, you know, to progress. And that's our job, right? Is once you go through that door, is our responsibility is to keep that door wide open. I feel like working with athletes like Reese is really testament to that. And obviously Lucas Paqueta, I mean, listen,
Man was at the
huge,
World Cup.
like what a signing in terms of like at the World Cup. He's
Brazil
a
represented,
phenomenal
yeah.
athlete, even more charismatic. You know, when I, you know, through his team, went and sat down with Lucas at his house. I mean, you know, he's learning English at the moment, but very welcoming, very humble, centered around his family, his wife and kids. Like everything he stands for me, just working with an athlete like that is is a pleasure because I'm so aligned with that. Everything I'm like everything you believe in is exactly where my head's at personally and professionally. So yeah,
Wavy.
Super,
Two
super
wavy
exciting.
announcements in the space of a week, basically, right?
Yes.
We've chatted a bit about Lovemore Sports, but that's not the only thing you do. You're in the luxury world as well, and you're building a sick startup right now. We've connected a lot around this. We've connected with Notion, and like we've been working together on this. So tell me about Whim Lifestyle, what the app is, what you're trying to do with it, and like how the journey's been with that.
Yeah, so Whim, I think, was born out of a passion of, as I said, just mainly working with athletes, but like high net worth individuals when I was in hospitality, helping them with their lifestyle needs, navigating that. And I always thought, you know what, there's got to be a technological solution that can really help advance this space. And you have some companies like your Velocity Blacks and others who have come into space and done some really
These are like
interesting
concierge
things.
type luxury.
And I guess in that concierge space, everything's always been centered around luxury. I'll get you a jet, I'll get you this, I'll get you that. But then when you strip it back to its purest form and you think about what people actually care about, the luxury makes up a small percentage of their lives, full circle. So that's when we went on the journey and we were like, actually the perfect customer is families, because we're building a platform that caters to every single member of the family. Now, what does that mean? Two parents have a toddler. I've got a goddaughter who's 2, right? For her birthday, we took her to Legoland, and her parents were like, God, you know what? We always struggle to find like things to do with Sienna. So it's like, my goddaughter's called Sienna, by the way. And it's like, you have to think about kid-friendly restaurants. Where do we go on holiday? And there's so many things for parents to unpack. Now, if you had a platform that catered to that and makes their life easy in terms of navigating, having all those options, mum and dad want to go on date nights and anniversaries. Again, they want to find the best restaurant. They want to find something new, something exciting.
Doing up date night proper.
You might have a teenager who's like, Mum, I need the Fear of God hoodie. I need some Chrome Heart jeans, and I need whatever.
The new Yeezys and that, come on.
They need to find that, and that's another headache, and they want to buy it at the right price. They don't want to pay 5x because, you know, so it's looking at the kind of life cycle of family. We've thought if we bring a platform, an app that caters to all of that and makes it easily accessible, you know, we would change the game, because no one's really focused on a customer segment. Right now, all the products in the space are very much broad, and it's all based, most of it is based on like a live chat, which still requires a lot of people. Whereas for us, we were like, if you use AI and you automate a lot of those things, people want the end result more than they want to just technically talk to someone, right?
It's good to have the concierge button, but I'd pay premium for that.
Yeah, so
as and when.
So let's talk about the customer journey, plugging in the calendar and where it goes from there, right? So talk to me about that. So the concept of this is that, boom, you start off by, I'm a high net worth individual, got a lot of time, but I got a lot of money, but I ain't got a lot of time, right? I plug in my calendar, I sign up to your app, I plug in my calendar. Then what happens after that?
Yeah, so essentially, as Seb rightly said, you're a high net worth family. You know, you look at this platform, you know, oh, this could be good, let's try it out. You become a member, you plug in your calendars. So we sync with your Google Calendar. We can't see anything in your calendar, GDPR, so let's just put that out there. But what we get is your availability. So all the dates in your calendar that aren't filled. So then on the interface, on the home screen of the app, you start getting, after you put in your preferences, you start getting options. If you're into sport, it will say, hey, Wimbledon's coming up. So then you can either swipe left or swipe right, kind of like the whole dating app concept, swipe left, swipe right. So you keep getting hit with different content. You're swiping left, swipe right. And what the algorithm does, it's learning your interests and your preferences. What then that allows us to do is in your calendar, we start to make informed recommendations. Hey, BJ, we know you're into this. This is coming up on the 20th. There's Chris Brown at the O2 on this day. Oh, by the way, you're into like travel in Cannes. There's this going on during the film festival and Grand Prix week. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's amazing. So now it's a more proactive rather than reactive service. We're not waiting for you to decide what you want to do. We're just giving you constant options, which means you're more engaged and you're coming back.
Become a useful tool.
Yeah. And it becomes almost like the center. And one person, Toby Edwards, actually, is the CEO of Fly Victor Jet. It's a private jet company. He said to me, think about it this way. Every day when we wake up, you have 5 apps that you religiously look at. And you guys will think about this when later. You'll probably look at WhatsApp, social media, banking, I don't know, news app, and email.
Email,
Yeah, that's your 5. And he said, what you're building essentially is a product that sits in that one of 5 apps that you will check every morning religiously, because it becomes that important to you that you always want to check in and make sure you know what's going on, what's happening, and looking at your options, because it might be you need to take a client out for dinner, you're traveling, X, Y, and Z.
And this is an end-to-end experience where you're looking at the experiences, you're recommending it to people, and they can just book it or pay for it with the swipe of a button.
Now, you know, me, entrepreneur, been around for a minute, always
Been around
trying to
the
find innovations.
Yeah.
Like when we innovate, there's always competitors, and we can obviously find ways to break in. You've obviously mentioned the guys and girls and, you know, platforms that are doing it more on the luxury thing. But is there anyone else doing this? And what have you learned from stuff happening, even if it's not in the market, or is this literally going to be a world's first?
Do you know what? There are people doing similar things. So I mentioned like a company called Velocity Black. They've got an interesting concept called conversational commerce, where if you sign up to their app, they say they respond in under 1 minute. So you could be like, hey, I want a dinner table tonight, and someone's on the back end replying straight away. Then you've got and they've kind of captured that super luxury market. They've just announced a partnership with Aston Martin.
Wicked.
So for their members, you get access to like Formula One experiences. Really cool. And then you've got one I find really interesting is called Hello Alfred. So it's basically an app which is focused on residential. So they partner with luxury developers, buildings, apartments, and they provide services for, hey, we'll hang your TV. Hey, we'll help you with stuff around the house. Hey, we'll do this. And you've got like a chat service. They'll do your groceries, all this sort of stuff. So I looked at that and I thought, that's a good example, because they're doing so well because it's the practical, mundane, everyday things that we all need help with. Imagine someone could help you with groceries and you want to hang your TV, you just moved in, your sofa's done, instead of doing the whole IKEA flat pack, and I guess it is first world problems, but actually for most people the time it takes to do all those things, if you had a service that could get that done at a cost effective rate, then I mean, you know, most people would lap that up.
So what does success look like for you and this business this year? How can the people in our block family support?
Do you know what success for us looks like? You know, as Seb mentioned, we're working with Notion, Cam and Seb on, you know, closing, you know, our first like funding round, which is about 1.5 mil we're planning to land. And I think success for us looks like onboarding, you know, at least 1,000 families in our first year as a minimum. We've got a great B2B partnership we're working on with the Professional Footballers Association. You know, we see private banking as a great area of plugging in our service on a white label basis. And yeah, I think it's the rollout of a successful product. We've got a really exciting MVP at the moment, but it's then actually building out the product and demonstrating to the market why this is going to become a very important tool for them in the short term and the long term.
Wow. What an episode.
Come
what
on.
An entrepreneur. We're going to be sat back here and we're going to be like, the Blazer boys have done it.
With the Blazer boys.
Soul in the jacket, people.
But yes, where can people find you? Where can people find your business?
Yeah, so Instagram's probably the most active platform for me, Instagram and LinkedIn. I've also jumped on TikTok now just because we're rolling out a lot of our athletes onto TikTok. So I'm getting to grips with the platform.
At Seoul Lovemore, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. At Soul_Lovemore on pretty much every platform. And then LinkedIn, obviously, it's just my name. But yeah.
Love that. Guys, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. It's been the Blocks to Bags boys, aka Blazer boys. It's been a fun episode. See y'all soon.